So thank you everyone for joining us today for our latest installment of Solutions for Success. Today we will be walking you through and demoing Microsoft Dataverse and Power Pages. One option to consider when looking for a secure and authenticated portal and forms platform. So at a very high level, we'll walk through the solution overview and approach, how you would go about architecting such a solution, what the security model and authentication and access looks like with different IDPs, Power Apps and data design, and then just some things to think about as part of your delivery and your project methodology. My name is Jonathan Hamilton. I am the president here at Point Alliance. I am joined today by two of my colleagues, Eleanor and Chintan, who are the technical wizards who will be leading us through the overview. Again, for anyone who's looking for a deeper dive into these technologies, more than happy to speak with you afterwards, and you can reach out. So there is Eleanor, our Vice President of Consulting Services. And I think Chintan has a slide. No, Chintan does not get a slide. Oh, well. So Point Alliance, for those of you who are not familiar with us, we are a Toronto-based Microsoft Cloud partner, a solutions partner in 5 different areas, doing a lot of work with SharePoint and Dynamics, security, both on the web and the device, app and innovation, so a lot of development and integration work, data and AI with Power BI and Fabric, and Azure infrastructure. So with that, I think we will dive right into our agenda, and I will turn things over to Eleanor.
Hello, everyone. My name is Eleanor. Thanks, Jonathan. So today's solution for success session is about, building solution under Power Platform without the need of having heavy CRM like dynamic sales or finance operations and all that stuff, right? So we are gonna do something about like this Power Pages, Dataverse, and Power Apps. So what are these? These are Power Platform solutions. So like Power Pages used for external web experience for pages, forms, having list and navigation for authenticated users, right? And then you use Dataverse that provides structure of that data in a secure storage using customer standard tables and relationships to other entities. And then Power Apps is used for internal user who manage reviews or act on submitted information from your Power Pages that is surfaced from external users. So Power Pages without heavy CRM. So Power Pages can be implemented as a standalone Power Platform without having to deploy like heavy Dynamics 365 sales, customer service, or field service, or other or other party 365 application. The portal can be built during the Microsoft Dataverse using custom tables, relationships, forms, views, and added business rules using Power Apps and Power Pages, right? In this model, Dataverse can act as an application data layer rather than as a dependency on Dynamics 365. So the organization can define their own business model, such as application, registrations, or anything outside of the D365 area. So Power Pages will expose this selected database table forms as lists, records to external user through secure web roles or table permission. And then that's when we would use like, IDP to securely authenticate to your portal. Dynamics 365 should only be introduced when a portal needs to be extended for 365 load, like, exposing your customer service cases, sales account, field service worker. So that's when you use Dynamics 365. So for heavy lifting, because that product already have those uh, like set tables for that applications, right? The sales and field service. So you can extend that part. So the objectives for the solution is one, to secure your web access by providing secure portal for authenticated users to interact with your business data. Two, centralize the data using Dataverse to support consistent validation, security, and reporting and automation on your process flows, and then use Power Apps to use for your internal operations, right? On how do you do your data management, review, and all this process flow within the organization or internal users. You can use the Power Apps using model driven to display that data, right? So, and then four is, of course, use the least privilege access. Apply role-based security within tables, first from the environment, the table, or within the role level column security. This helps protect sensitive information from from external sources, or making sure that you have defined like clear security from your database table processes, and like up to the column level, right? And then the fifth one is governance at a scale, which means, sorry, go back, governance at scale. It uses Power Platform Admin, so which has all this like you can manage all audit, like scaling, maintain usability. So that's all part of that. At a higher level, so the higher level architecture. So just want to say, like, so identity authentication. So from here, you can use Microsoft Entra or external ID, or you can use a different IDP to go into to your portal. And then this overall architecture separates responsibility across presentation layer, data security, and automation from here, and the administration layer. The Power Pages act as external facing for your external users, or such as customers or clients that you can allow them to access your portal. And then Power Apps here is where you build your model-driven app for, again, for external staff, for managing records and internal workflow. Um, you can use it between Power Pages and Microsoft Dataverse, right? You can use web roles and table permission, and I'll show you later quickly on how you can use that, or how you can configure that. Okay. So some architecture components, the portal experience, yeah, as for your customer clients, you can use Power Pages, data platform. This is where we use Dataverse. Again, internal applications, Power Apps using model-driven app. When you provision a new environment within your Power Platform admin, it has you can easily create a model-driven app with that like is a low code um, interface that, like experience, what do you call it, like you don't need to be a developer to build these forms to create this model driven app. But so automation, you can use automation like Power Automate for approvals, notification, and of course identity access for external IDP if you want to, again, surface your records for external users, and governance, as I said earlier, for Power Platform Admin would have this feature, right? So next is, like, the layered security. As I mentioned earlier, Power Platform has this layered security model. So you can have authentication to confirm user identity. Power Pages can support multiple identity providers depending on the audience, right? Including Microsoft Entra for organizational users, or external identity providers for your partner, right? Authentication should be required for any pages that displays, that collects or updates sensitive business data, right? Web roles. Web roles define what portal user is allowed to do after signing in. So example, a customer partner or like a student, however your portal is designed to do, web roles are assigned to contacts, are used to control access to pages, forms, or lists what you can surface from your portal. And then Dataverse records exposed through that portal. Table permission, the third one is like control access on the Dataverse records through Power Pages, forms, lists, using liquid components. So you can use liquid language on your portal management to also like a more granular way to display your data. But you can also use like out of the box, like web role access that you can configure within it. So database security provides role-based access control for internal users and application and security roles. Um, you can assign through a business unit, teams, ownership, and sharing roles should be designed to match your operational responsibilities. Okay, so user authentication method, right? There's different ones. These are examples. So Entra ID using employee internal users, Microsoft Entra internal IDs for customers, or you can also use Azure AD B2C, OpenID Connect, Auth, SAML, local auth. So before, local auth is being used before, but it's not recommended. You can still configure it on your Power Pages, but again, like it's much it's not recommended to use it, but you would there are other IDPs that you can configure in your pages, so it's easy. So you can use Google, Facebook, LinkedIn. So that's why it's not recommended to use a local authentication, because that means you're storing all your contacts and then the passwords and within your portal, right? Invitation based. So and then the recommended secure portal design. So these are just a few pointers for secure portal design. It should be designed around clear user personas, data ownership rules, and access scenarios. So before you come up with all this like function that you will surface within your portal, you need to make sure that you have different use case, different use case personas, so what people can see, right? And then this will define the user, what record they access, what they can create, update records, and what fields must be hidden, read only, or conditional display. So those should be like written or being tested. You should have those different user access to test this type of function that you require in your portal. For portal that does not use Dynamics 365, database model should be intentionally designed around the portal process rather than inherited from the pre-built application. This approach gives the organization full control over the table names, relationship forms, security role on the life cycle of that app. Always use authenticated process for all sensitive information. Disable anonymous access unless there is a clear public information requirement for those portal pages. Um, Another thing is define web roles on your business personas rather than individual users. So you have to make sure you have a clear understanding of the functional, let's say the functional requirements. So who are these business personas who will performing this particular or who's going to be seeing this information, this table, this views, right? So you have to define that instead of assigning it to individual users. So it's best to put it as a business persona, so it's easier for you to map it to a web role. So another thing is create table permission for every Dataverse tables exposed through that portal. Or use preferred contacts. So when we provision a non-D65, like a non-sales or non-finance operation, it creates like a contact account tables in the back end. So I'll show you that quickly when we provision like a non-D65 sales in the environment. Always review forms and lists to ensure only approved columns are exposed on your portal. And then another thing is use separate environment for development, like a sandbox, and production. And in production, you need to always use managed environment. Also, the other thing is apply DLP policies for all these things. And then lastly is for governance, enable the audit and monitoring for all sensitive tables and administrative actions. So those are the few recommended procedures or things to note when securing portal design. So here's an example: user access matrix. When you have to design your portal through a Power Platform, or so anonymous visitors, so what type do they see? Authenticated user, or maybe a partner supplier, what they can, like, what approach they're going to do, like, anonymous visitor, non-sensitive pages. So you define that on your portal, which pages are non-secure. Authenticated user, like what can they create, what can they view, are they only, like, allowed to view their own records or a company records. So those has to be defined, right? Partner suppliers from the org level, like, you have to define, all these orders from the company level. So if I'm a partner login, right, I can see everything for this company. Internal reviewers or portal administrators, so system admin, monitoring, these are all internal. Okay, so Power Apps and data design. So Power Apps for internal user, again, for our Power Apps can be a Canvas app or a model-driven app. So it's easy to use model-driven app. So if you create an app, it'll just create from a site area. All your tables can be automatically displayed on a site. It's minimal coding or no code at all, right? So database design consideration, records should include relationship that support secure filtering. This table allows Power Pages and table to determine which records assigned to a user can access, right? So on the configuration of your portal, it tells you one of the options there. If use contact email for to link between login and whatever IDP you use, right? Avoid exposing technical or administrative tables directly to the portal user. So you need to be careful of what you're surfacing on your pages. Separate public, restricted, and sensitive information in clear tables or column where practical. And always use business rules, calculated field on Power Automate carefully to avoid unintentional exposing your data. So you make sure whatever you surface on your web page, right? It's not like, any calculated field that you have on your table and then accidentally you put it on your thing, on your pages. You don't want to do that. Make sure you have a clear understanding what column you're exposing. Again, Power Apps should be used for internal business users who are managing your data, like, the triaging whatever submitted from the web, right? We can add business process flow within that Power App or model-driven app, and then users should be assigned Dataverse security roles. So when you create the solution, you need to have, as I mentioned earlier, you need to define who are those business persona, and then you can direct it to different web roles that you can also assign it within the tables or entities within your Dataverse. So implementation approach. So I covered on, like, before designing the portal, these are all the points that how we would implement this, like discovery requirements, audience, use cases, data sensitivity, authentication requirement, and business process. That's the first one. And in security design, define the personas, web roles, database roles, table permission, page permission, and access scenarios. Data model, design the database, Dataverse tables, like the relationships. For example, you have enrollment, you can have from enrollment, you have students can be a contact. Those should be defined. So as you have during your discovery and requirements and different use cases, you can create a quick data model on how you would build this in Dataverse. And then portal build, configure Power Pages, site structure, navigation pages, form list, branding, and authentication. So what authentication form that we're going to use, what IDP we're going to use. Internal app building, again, configure Power App for operational users, including forms, views, dashboard, using the model-driven one in Power Apps. Automation and integration. So if, for example, anything, all the records submitted from the web or anything that the internal staff are working on, you can build like a notification approvals, notification using Power Automate to see like different stages of your record or data, right? Again, another one's testing, deployment, and day-to-day operations for monitoring usage, review access. So operations side, the admin platform can help you do that as long as you have the proper um, role in your AD. You can see that piece. Key risk. Um, Key risk and mitigation, like least privilege test with personas. Anonymous access require authentication. Make sure your poor relationship design contact account first. Make sure you have that. And uncontrolled makers, security groups plus ALM. Weak testing, positive and negative access tests. So those uh, make sure you have like proper testing, different use case, different personas, different scenario that you have to do. Okay, so let me show you. So next steps, recommended next step, confirm standard, Dataverse, Dynamics versus D365 extension, confirm portal audience, right, versus authenticator provided expected user personas. Select the preferred authentication method for each user group. Either you use Entra for internal users. Well, of course, for Entra for internal users, right? Microsoft external Entra, or if you can use ADB2C or other IDP. Create tech inventory for all your custom Dataverse table. So when you build a solution, make sure you have all the like inventory of all the tables or all the elements that you created within Dataverse. Because as I mentioned earlier, as you create the environment, it also pre-created some of the tables that's built in, like account, contact, so that because the portal management gets created when you provision this environment. Um, so have an inventory of what's been customized, right? Create a security matrix mapping for each web roles, right? What they can see, what records, and then build a prototype for forms. Build this so you can always build this like easily, not like quick, but then at least easily in a sandbox environment. Okay, so just to give you an idea, let me see if I could do this. Yeah. So this is one of the what we provision, right? So PA Dataverse Dev. So this doesn't have any heavy CRM on it. So you'll notice if I do a D365 apps, there's nothing sales on this, right? So this is what comes in when you just provision an environment that only has a Dataverse inside, right? So from the environment, if I go here, you'll see all different access security roles. The security roles that you can define or assign to a table, the users, teams, and all these things. And then auditing, you can enable auditing on this on each table. And then also, for example, like, make sure when you provision an environment, you need to create an Entra user security group. So this way, when it asks you, when you create that environment, you can add that Entra group, right? So anybody who is on the Entra group must have, is the only one who can access this environment. So this is from the environment provisioning. So when you provision the environment, I'll show you what it will create. So it will create the first three apps here: Power Pages Management, Power Platform Solution Health Hub. So the Power Page Management this is the one that it creates first. Like it will have all this configuration that you will do on your website. And then you'll notice there's already one created of course contact, so you can easily link an IDP contact to this contact that it creates here, right? So once that provision, you can go to your Make Power Pages Microsoft and add that environment or select that environment where you can have this. You can create a new site. So let me show you how when I edit this. I now only have 5 minutes left. Just to give you like how securities are done. So under this is something new. So normally on the older version, the security are done from the Power Platform level. So now you can see like you can define providers or IDP, different IDP here, right? Within your Power Page, within your website, right? You can enable Microsoft Entra, or you can even use it by Azure B2C on a different tenant. And also you can even use other IDP providers like Facebook, LinkedIn, Google, Twitter, Microsoft, or other Microsoft, right? From the security level too, so you'll notice like these are the standard administrator who owns the site, anonymous users, authenticated users. You can add new roles on it. And then under table permission, you can see, okay, who can have access to it, or what type of level access that you can put in on that table. So then, since this one is a small portal that we just collect courses and enrollment, so we only have few tables that we created. And again, this contact is coming from the portal that we can use, so that way when a person's authenticate, it will just add that, filter it through that contact. Okay, so again, it also surface the column security profiles, that type of things, right? Um, so I think that's what I have for now. So if you have any other, so this is just to give you an idea on how you would secure it, build it, provision it on a high level, right? But then our recommended approach is on the first few slides on how we would build a solution with proper steps on them. Okay, thank you.
All right. Thank you, Eleanor. I think, do we have just a couple of closing slides back on the
Oh,
PowerPoint to leave people with?
right. Okay. Um, okay.
So thank you again, everybody, for joining today. Thank you, Eleanor, for walking us through things to think about as you consider Power Pages for your portal and potentially not connecting it or not requiring D365. Certainly, we talked to a number of clients who are looking for forms and portal functionality within the Microsoft world, and what are the options, and there are always a number of options. Licensing is something that we did not discuss today. Obviously, that is a factor in choosing your platforms and seeing whether Power Pages is a suitable alternative for you as well. But hopefully you found things helpful and got some good takeaways from Eleanor's session. We will, as a reminder, have upcoming Solutions for Success sessions on the third Tuesday of every month. So look for that. We will also be having some upcoming Microsoft 365 Copilot sessions this fall. But the best place to keep track of those is at pointalliance.com/events. So thank you everyone for joining us. We have one final slide just up on the screen now. If you enjoyed the session, please do leave us a review. If you didn't enjoy the session, you are more than welcome to leave a review as well, or any comments or suggestions for future sessions. We do have a schedule going up to the end of 2026, but would always like to hear from people if there are topics of interest that we are not covering as it relates to the Microsoft Cloud. So thank you everyone for taking some time out of your busy days today to join us, and thank you to Eleanor for the very informative session.
Thank you, everyone.
Have a great day, everyone.